Hate has found a new home. Not on the streets, not in political rallies, but in late-night chat rooms.
People
across India think that there are no Hindus in Kerala. They think that mostly people are all converted. So arm yourself. No, Arnya, I'm not saying that have arms with you. I don't know what the law allows, but whatever it is, make sure you are protected. You have a very good network. Be associated with the closest Sangh or RSS office or somebody so that these people can protect you. I think many Malayalis are aware of the sitting threat time bomb that they are sitting on, but still they just don't want to do anything because they're scared.
These are conversations on Spaces, the audio chat feature on Twitter, now called X. My colleague Harita Manav listened, documented, and followed these discussions not just for one night, but for weeks. Discussions where speakers, almost all Malayalis, urged Hindus in Kerala to arm themselves, where they call for the holy book to be burned, where child deaths in Gaza are mocked. These aren't just random comments. This is real hate, and it's helping shape a dangerous narrative. And too many platforms are letting it pass completely unchecked. Let me explain. What I'm about to share in this episode primarily comes from the work of my colleague Harita Manav. She spent days tracking these late-night hate-filled spaces, hours of listening, sifting through the noise, and pulling out the patterns. And here's the thing. When mainstream media often echoes or ignores these conversations, it takes painstaking reporting to expose how hate is seeded. At the News Minute, we believe stories like these must be told. But to keep doing this work that is slow, careful, and often risky, we need your support. So definitely do read Harita's full article on our website. And if you believe this kind of journalism should exist, stand by us. Subscribe to the News Minute and help keep independent media alive. Do write to me on what you thought of this episode at lme@thenewsminute.com and catch a new episode of Let Me Explain every Saturday. Now in these XSpaces, night after night, people are gathered not for debate or discussion, but to spread conspiracy, hate, and fear. From the locations they talk about and the cultural references they share, many sound like Hindu Keralites living abroad. Their conversations usually start around 11:30 at night and go on till well past 1. And the language is openly abusive. Derogatory terms for Muslims are casually thrown around. It's not hard to see why Kerala becomes a center of attention. This is a state with a significant Muslim population, and for those manufacturing hate, fueling communal divisions can reap big political benefits. Some of the most active speakers have thousands of followers, many of them linked to Sangh groups. And while plenty hide behind anonymous handles, sometimes people do show up with their real names, like Rajesh Krishnan, a BJP office bearer in Kerala who proudly declared in one session, "Yes, I am a communalist." And it doesn't stop there. These conversations regularly spiral into sexist remarks and wild claims about history and politics. They even go after individuals who are secular. But here's the bigger danger. These hateful discussions don't just stay confined to XSpaces. They spill over into the media. Right-leaning outlets often pick them up, amplifying baseless claims and dressing them up as if they were legitimate news. We saw it after the Pahalgam terror attack. Women who survived were vilified in spaces and smeared online. Even the NIA gets dragged into these chats with speakers claiming to have inside information about upcoming operations. Most of the time, it's just a tactic to intimidate critics. And every time, the goal is the same: turn controversy into conspiracy, polarize and mobilize. When we confronted Rajesh Krishnan about his hateful remarks, he insisted he wasn't spreading hate speech, only criticizing what he called political Islam. On a shocking claim that he would laugh at the deaths of children in Gaza, he doubled down. But of course, this kind of hate isn't confined to XSpaces. It has found stages on other platforms too. Take Clubhouse, the audio app that was briefly all the rage in 2021. On the surface, it promised free-flowing conversations. In reality, some rooms quickly turned into cesspools of communal and misogynistic abuse. One infamous example was a session titled "Muslim Gals Are More Beautiful Than Hindu Gals." What started as a provocative title spiraled into open promotion of rape, incest, and bigotry, targeting Muslim women, Hindu women, and entire communities. Another Clubhouse room that same day began as a discussion on caste, but it quickly devolved into the same kind of misogynistic rant. The backlash was swift. Police in Mumbai and Delhi registered cases charging participants under sections that ranged from promoting enmity and outraging religious feelings. It also included sexual harassment and transmission of obscene material. 3 young men, including the moderator, just 19 years old from Haryana, were arrested. And this wasn't an isolated case. It echoed the bully buy and sully deal scandal where Muslim women were mock auctioned online. The very same dynamics are at play across platforms like Facebook and YouTube, where tech becomes a megaphone for hate. And the scale is staggering. According to the India Hate Lab, hate speech incidents in India jumped by 74% in 2024. Nearly 1,000 of those were traced back to live streams and videos on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We covered this in detail in an earlier episode of Let Me Explain, showing how hate speech in India isn't just erupting on the streets, it's being organized online. Another example is Hindutva pop, a genre where lyrics drip with hate. In April 2022, a Hindu New Year rally in Rajasthan turned violent after Hindutva pop songs, blaring from loudspeakers, urged Hindus to show Muslims their place, and it also promised that only swords will speak. Months later, in Karnataka, outside a mosque, young men danced to another such track, one that openly declared, "We will bathe this land in blood." These are not underground tracks. They're right on YouTube, raking up millions of views. Some even generate ad revenue, money flowing not just to the artists, but also to YouTube itself. The Toe Center analyzed 100 Hindutva pop songs across 40 YouTube channels. And more than half of these channels are part of YouTube's partner program, which allows them to monetize their content. One of the biggest stars of the genre is singer Lakshmi Dubey, with nearly 5 lakh subscribers on her channel. And in her songs, she warns that those who cause hindrance to the land of Ram will not be left alive. Other singers like Kajal Rajwanshi and Varun Bahar go even further, singing openly about sending Muslims to their graveyard or slashing tongues of those who refuse to hail Lord Ram. Even when this kind of content is removed after public outrage, it does not disappear. It often reappears through YouTube's auto-generated channels or as remixes on smaller fan accounts. And these songs aren't just music. They're rallying cries, traveling from YouTube to the streets, blasting from DJ carts in religious processions, fueling real-world violence. Take singer Sandeep Acharya. He's linked to a Hindutva youth group, and in an interview, he even admitted that when YouTube suspends his channels, he simply makes new ones. His songs, some celebrating the killing of Muslims accused of cow slaughter, have raked up millions of views across multiple channels. Despite YouTube's hate speech policies, these tracks remain widely available. That's because enforcement is far weaker in India than in English-speaking countries. Slurs and violent lyrics in Indian languages often slip past moderation. And because India is YouTube's biggest market in terms of users, experts say the company lacks the incentive to strictly enforce its rules here. So whether it's XSpaces filled with nightly hate or YouTube channels that turned calls for genocide into catchy pop anthems, the story is the same. Hate is being normalized, packaged, and monetized. And it amplifies at scale. Yet, the law is very clear. India's BNS defines hate speech as any communication that promotes enmity between groups based on religion, race, or language. Supreme Court lawyer Anas Tanveer told us that what's happening in these XSpaces, for instance, is part of a deliberate strategy. A way for the Sangh to expand in states like Kerala, where they've struggled politically. He also pointed out the tricky balance here. The state has to act against hate speech, but too much control over online speech can also threaten freedom. It's a thin line, but still the courts have been clear on one thing. Secularism is non-negotiable. The Supreme Court has said that there cannot be fraternity unless members from different religions and castes can coexist harmoniously. And yet, that very harmony is exactly what's being chipped away in these dark corners of the internet. What starts as late-night chat on Spaces or so-called devotional song on YouTube can very easily spiral into real-world hate, fear, and violence. And that's why it matters that we listen, that we call it out, and we don't look the other way.